The begging widows. The market was alive with voices, bright lights, and the smell of cooked food. Aliens of all kinds moved from stall to stall, bargaining for fruit, cloth, or tools. Their faces glowed with greed, laughter, and hurry. But in one corner, 3 alien widows stood quietly. Their clothes were torn, their faces pale, and their eyes empty of hope. The first widow held her thin child close, the second leaned on a broken stick, and the third tried to cover her face with a scarf so no one could see her tears. They whispered the same words again and again. Please, we just need a job. Please, just work, not charity. But every time they spoke, the aliens turned their heads away. Some even spat near their feet, calling them bad luck and useless mouths. No one wanted them. The galaxy had no space for weak widows. Not after their husbands had died in the mines of war. Alone, hungry, and unwanted, they had only each other. The child coughed, his breath weak. The mother pressed her hand on his back, praying for food. But no one listened. Go away. One merchant shouted, waving his fat hand. You will bring curses to my stall. Another threw a rotten fruit at them. You widows are shadows, not workers. Find a hole and stay there. Laughter followed, cruel and sharp. The 3 women lowered their heads. They had walked since morning, begging in every corner, but the day was ending and their feet could no longer carry them. The sun of that alien world burned red on the horizon. Shadows stretched long and the market began to close. They huddled near a broken wall, their stomachs empty. The little boy cried softly, asking for water, but the only water near them was dirty rain collected in a crack. The widows looked at each other, fear in their eyes. How much longer could they survive like this? Would tonight be the night they closed their eyes forever? One widow whispered, Maybe we should go to the Lord's house, beg there. He might throw us some scraps. The other shook her head quickly. No. If his guards catch us, we will be beaten again. The market grew quiet. Most stalls closed. The women sat in silence, tears mixing with dust. All around them, life moved on. Families ate, merchants counted money, children laughed. But for the widows, the world was a cage, without a door. Then, footsteps echoed, slow and heavy. A tall figure walked through the fading light. He was not alien. His skin was human, pale under the red sun. His eyes were sharp but kind. His clothes were simple but clean, and his walk was firm. He was a stranger in this place, and everyone stared as he passed. The widows did not raise their heads. They had learned long ago that strangers meant danger. But the little boy coughed again so loudly that the human stopped walking. He turned. His gaze fell on the broken group sitting by the wall. Are you all right? He asked. His voice was calm, deep and steady. The widows froze. No alien had spoken to them with such a tone in years. One of them whispered, We just need a job, sir. Not food, not coins, just a job. Please. The human's eyes softened. He saw the bruises on their arms, the dust in their hair, the hopeless fear in their eyes. He looked at the child, whose lips were dry, and whose breath shook. Something stirred inside the man, something that no alien in this market seemed to feel. Before he could speak, a fat merchant laughed from behind his stall. Don't waste your time, human. Those widows are cursed. They destroy everything they touch. Another joined. Yes, give them work and your shop will rot. Better to step over their bones than let them in. The human turned his head slowly. His gaze was cold now. Maybe that is what you believe, he said. But I will see with my own eyes, not yours. His words cut through the market like a knife. Silence fell, every ear turned, every eye stared. The widows looked at him in shock. Was he truly offering them something, or was this another cruel trick? Their hearts beat fast, hope mixed with fear. The human stepped closer. If you can work, I will give you work, he said. If you can try, I will give you a chance. The widows could not answer, their voices stuck in their throats. The boy coughed again, his small hand gripping his mother's torn sleeve. The mother cried silently, for the first time not from pain but from a fragile spark of hope. The merchants whispered angrily. Some laughed, others shook their heads, But the human did not care. He stood tall, looking down at the three broken women. "Come with me," he said simply. "I will show you where you can begin." And in that moment, the story of the widows changed. They had begged all day and found only shame. But now, under the dying red sun, a single human hand had reached out to them. Yet in the shadows of the marketplace, dark eyes watched. Not everyone welcomed this act of kindness, and danger was already on its way. The next morning, the marketplace was loud again. Merchants shouted prices, buyers argued, and children ran between stalls. But in one corner, whispers traveled fast. "Did you see it? The human gave the widows a chance," a fruit seller hissed. "Madness, pure madness," replied another, shaking his head. "He will regret it. Just wait." The three alien widows stood quietly near the human's workshop. Their eyes showed both fear and confusion. They had not slept much. They wondered if the man would change his mind. Maybe it was all a cruel joke. Maybe when the sun rose, he would send them away like all the others. But when the door opened, the human walked out. His shirt was rolled at the sleeves. His hands, rough from work, his face was serious but not cruel. "You are still here," he said. "Good, that means you are willing." The women bowed their heads. The youngest one whispered, "Sir, if you want us to leave, just say so. We don't want trouble for you." The human's voice was steady. "If I wanted you gone, I would not have spoken yesterday. I keep my word. Come inside. There is work to do." The workshop was filled with machines and tools, strange human designs mixed with alien parts. There were half-finished engines, piles of metal scraps, and shelves stacked with bolts. The widows froze at the door. They had never seen such things so close. "Don't. Just stand there," the man said. "Start with cleaning, wipe the dust, sort the tools, sweep the floor. Can you do that?" The oldest widow nodded quickly. "Yes, sir, we can." Her voice shook, but there was strength in it. The women began to work. Their hands were clumsy at first. They dropped tools, bumped into shelves, spilled oil. But the human did not yell. He guided them step by step. "Hold the brush like this, not like that. Keep the heavy tools on the lower rack. Don't rush, take your time." The widows exchanged surprised looks. No one had ever spoken to them like this. Not with patience, not with respect. Each small correction felt like light after years of darkness. By afternoon, the floor was cleaner than it had been in months. The shelves were organized, the air smelled less of rust. For the first time, the widows felt they had done something right. The boy, too weak to work, sat near the door and smiled faintly at his mother, but outside the marketplace was buzzing with anger. "Look at him," one merchant sneered, "teaching those cursed widows as if they are apprentices. What a fool." Another spat on the ground. "We cannot allow this. If he succeeds, others will question our ways." That evening, when the human locked his workshop, he noticed the cold stares. Aliens whispered behind his back. Some even laughed loudly when he passed, but he ignored them. His steps were calm, his face unreadable. Inside the workshop, the widows sat together. They had eaten a little bread the human had given them. The boy's cheeks were less pale now. The women spoke in low voices. "Why would he help us?" one asked. "He gains nothing," the oldest answered. "Maybe humans see differently. Maybe his heart is not like theirs." Her words trembled, but hope sparked in her tone. Later that night, when the widows thought the human had gone to rest, they whispered again, "We must not fail. If we fail him, we lose our last chance." They made a silent promise to each other. They would work harder than ever, even if their hands bled. But in the shadows of the marketplace, danger moved. A group of bitter aliens gathered behind a closed stall. Their leader, a scar-faced merchant, slammed his fist on the table. "This cannot continue," he growled. "If the human makes those widows useful, our excuses will look weak. Our control will weaken. Tomorrow night, we will remind him why no one hires cursed widows." The next morning, the widows arrived before the sun rose. Their hands shook as they swept, cleaned, and polished. They worked without pause, sweat dripping down their faces. When the human saw their effort, he nodded slightly. "Good," he said. "You are learning fast." The boy sitting near the door whispered softly, "Mama, he believes in us." His small voice carried more strength than the women had felt in years. By the end of the day, the workshop looked alive again. Customers who once avoided the human stall began to peek inside, curious. Maybe this man is not a fool, one muttered. His workshop looks better already. But with every glance of curiosity, the widows felt a shiver, for they knew not all eyes were friendly. Somewhere, someone was waiting, planning. Their kindness was turning into a weapon for others. When the human closed the shop that evening, he looked at the widows. "You did well today," he said simply. "Tomorrow, we will try something harder." His words were short, but they warmed the women more than a feast ever could. The night fell again, stars filling the alien sky. The widows finally slept with lighter hearts, but far away, footsteps echoed in secret. Ropes, knives, and fire prepared in darkness. Their human had given them an offer, a chance to stand again. But soon that chance would be tested by flames, and by the cruel laughter of those who wished them gone. The sun rose slowly, painting the alien sky with shades of orange and violet. The marketplace was already awake, but this morning something felt different. Whispers ran between stalls like fire through dry grass. "The human is still keeping those widows," one alien muttered. "He is stubborn. He will learn his mistake, soon," another laughed harshly. "When he loses everything, he will beg us for help, and then we will remind him who rules this place." Inside the workshop, the widows worked with tired hands but determined hearts. The youngest scrubbed the floor until it shone. The middle one carried heavy scrap despite her thin frame, and the oldest sorted tools with care. Each task seemed small, but for them it was a mountain. Every drop of sweat was a battle against shame and fear. The human watched them quietly. His sharp eyes noticed every movement. He could see their clumsy mistakes, but he also saw their effort. "You are not here to be perfect," he said firmly. "You are here to learn, and learning takes time." The widows nodded, their faces serious. They had failed too many times. In life, they would not fail him now, but trouble came sooner than expected. By midday, a customer entered the workshop, a tall alien with green scales and cold eyes. He placed a broken engine core on the table. "Fix this," he demanded. "I need it before sunset." The human examined the core. He could fix it, yes, but he saw the fear in the widow's eyes. This was their first real test. He turned to them. "Sort the pieces, clean them, and bring me the right tools." The women froze. This was not sweeping or wiping, this was real work. The merchant sneered. "You trust them with my engine? Do you want it ruined?" The human's voice was calm but strong. "They will assist me. If you cannot wait, take it elsewhere," the alien growled but stayed, curious to watch the failure. The widows swallowed their fear and began. Their hands trembled as they picked up strange tools. At first they dropped a wrench, then confused a bolt with a screw. The merchant smirked. "See? Hopeless." But the human's voice cut through their panic. "Breathe. Slow down. Watch what I do. Then copy." His words were like a rope pulling them out of deep water. One by one they began to focus. The youngest polished the engine's shell. The middle one cleaned clogged pipes, and the eldest passed tools correctly after 3 failed tries. Hours passed. Sweat mixed with oil. But little by little the engine took shape again. By late afternoon, the core hummed with faint light. The merchant's smirk faded, his eyes widened. Impossible. They actually helped. The human handed the repaired engine back. "It will last," he said simply. The merchant tested it, and to his shock, it worked. He dropped coins on the table and stormed out, ashamed of his own words. The widows looked at the human, their eyes shone with disbelief. One whispered, We did it?" The man nodded. "You passed your first test." For the first time in years, the women felt proud of themselves. Their hands were still dirty, their clothes still torn, but inside, they carried a spark of worth. But outside, the workshop shadows stirred. The scar-faced merchant who had sworn to end this experiment watched with narrowed eyes. He whispered to his men, "They are learning too fast. Tonight we burn it all." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the human locked his workshop. The widows were exhausted, their backs ached, but they carried small smiles. Even the boy laughed. Softly, for the first time, tomorrow, the human told them, will be harder, but you will be stronger. His voice carried quiet certainty. The widows believed him, yet, as darkness spread, footsteps crept between alleys, ropes, and oil jars, hidden beneath cloaks. The marketplace slept, but not everyone dreamed. In the silence of night, danger prepared its strike. The widows had faced their first test, and passed, but a greater trial waited in the shadows, one that would not test only their hands, but their courage and loyalty. The night was thick and heavy. Clouds covered the moons, and the market streets were nearly empty. Most stalls were locked, lamps dimmed, and only the sound of distant dogs echoed. But behind the shadows, a group of bitter men moved quietly. At their lead was the scar-faced merchant. His eyes burned with anger. He whispered harshly, "Tonight, the human learns his mistake. If those widows succeed, others will follow, and then our control is gone. Burn his shop, scatter the women, let him see the price of defiance." They carried jars of oil, cloth soaked in pitch, and ropes for binding. Their footsteps were soft, their breaths quick. The market slept, but danger was awake. Inside the workshop, the widows lay on old blankets. Near the tools, their bodies ached from the day's work, but their hearts carried hope. The little boy slept between them, his small chest rising and falling. For the first time in months, his face was peaceful. The human sat alone at his workbench, a small lamp glowing beside him. He was studying a new design, a strange machine part. His ears caught faint movement. Outside, he looked up, his eyes narrowing. Something felt wrong. Moments later, glass shattered. A burning jar rolled across the floor, flames bursting in orange tongues. The widows screamed as fire spread across the wooden boards. Smoke rose, thick, choking the air. The boy coughed violently. The mothers rushed to shield him, their eyes wide with terror. "Fire! Fire!" they cried. One of them grabbed a bucket, but it was empty. Another tried to beat the flames with cloth, but the fire only grew. The human leapt into action. He threw a heavy sheet over the fire, smothering part of it. Then he grabbed a bucket of water kept for emergencies and hurled it. The flames hissed but did not die. Outside, cruel laughter echoed. "They burn well." A voice shouted, "Let them scream." The widows froze, realizing this was no accident. Someone had come to destroy them. The human's jaw tightened. He pushed the women toward the back door. "Take the boy, get out." But the eldest widow shook her head. "No, if we leave, the fire will take everything. Let us fight with you." Together they worked, one widow fetching water, another dragging burning debris outside, the third coughing but refusing to stop, their faces blackened with soot. But they would not run. Outside, the scar-faced merchant grew impatient. "Why are they not screaming louder?" he growled. "Did the fire fail?" He ordered his men, "Break the door. Finish it." The attackers rushed in, but the human was ready. He grabbed a wrench from the bench, swinging it with deadly force. The first thug fell with a broken jaw. Another tried to grab him, but a widow struck the man's leg with a heavy rod, surprising herself with her own courage. The fight raged in smoke and flames. The widows, once weak and afraid, now fought like cornered wolves. They had nothing left to lose. Every strike they made carried years of pain. Every scream was anger turned into strength. The scar-faced merchant entered last. His eyes narrowed at the sight, his men beaten, the fire dying, and the widows standing strong beside the human. "You dare fight me?" he snarled. His knife flashed in the firelight. The human stepped forward, his wrench in hand. "Leave now, or I break more than your pride," he warned. His voice was cold, steady, and dangerous. For a moment, silence filled the burning shop. Then the merchant lunged, his knife aimed straight for the human's chest, but before the blade could strike, the eldest widow threw herself between them, catching the slash on her arm. Blood spilled, but her eyes were fierce. The human roared. With fury, his wrench slammed into the merchant's hand. Bones cracking, the knife clattered to the floor. The merchant howled in pain, stumbling back. His men, already broken and afraid, dragged him away, vanishing into the dark. The flames smoldered, smoke hanging heavy in the air. The widows coughed. Violently, their hands raw and blistered. The boy clung to his mother's dress, crying, "Don't leave me, Mama." The human looked at them, his face grim. "You saved my shop," he said. "You could have run, but you stayed, you fought beside me." The eldest widow pressed her bleeding arm, wincing. "You gave us a chance. We will not let anyone take it away." They stood together in the ruined workshop, burned wood around them, smoke rising into the night sky. The place was scarred, but still standing. The fire had not claimed it, and neither had their enemies. But outside, the whispers began. Again, news would spread quickly, about the fire, about the widows fighting, about the human who refused to bend. Some would admire him, but many would hate him more, and somewhere, in the grand house of the alien lord, word of the defiance would soon arrive. The human had survived sabotage, but now he had drawn the attention of someone far more dangerous. Morning came slowly, the smoke still hanging in the air around the marketplace. Ash and black marks scarred the human's workshop. Pieces of wood were broken, and the smell of fire clung to everything. The three widows stood outside, their faces pale but proud. They had fought through the night, and though their arms ached, they were alive. Whispers started as the market opened. Merchants pointed, shoppers stared. The fire did not destroy them, one said in disbelief. The widows fought back, side by side with the human. Another muttered, "I heard they defeated the scar-faced merchant himself." Some laughed nervously, some shook their heads, but none could deny the truth. The human opened the workshop door. His shirt was burned in places, his hands blistered, but his eyes were calm. He looked at the widows and the boy. "We survived because of you," he said. His words were simple, but they carried weight. The women lowered their heads. Not in shame, but in respect, the boy clung to his mother, whispering, "Mama, we are safe because of him." She stroked his hair, her eyes wet with tears. For the first time, her tears were not from despair, but from gratitude. By midday, the workshop was full again. Not with flames, but with customers. Curious aliens entered, pretending they only came to see the damage. But when they looked around, they saw the floor, still clean, the shelves still in order, and the widows working with determination. One customer placed a broken machine on the table. "If you could fix this after the fire, maybe you are worth my coin," he said. His tone was doubtful, but the human accepted. The widows assisted again, just as they had before. Their hands were more confident now, less shaky, their movements careful but sure. The machine came alive within an hour, humming smoothly. The customer's eyes widened. "It works, better than before," he admitted. Coins clinked on the table, more than the usual price. Word spread quickly. By evening, 3 more customers had come. Some merchants whispered angrily, "He is," turning them into workers, respected workers. Others frowned, afraid of what this meant for their own power. But among the poorer crowd, the farmers, the cleaners, the carriers, whispers of admiration grew louder. "The widows did not run when fire came," one woman said. "They fought, beside the human," another added. "Maybe they are not cursed. Maybe we were wrong." The widows heard these whispers. Their hearts trembled. Could it be true? After so long, after years of being spit on, could they finally earn respect? That night they sat together near the workshop's lamp. Their faces were tired but glowing with something new. The youngest whispered, "When they called us cursed, I believed them. But today I felt strong." The oldest nodded, her wounded arm wrapped in cloth. "Strength is not given, it is proven. Tonight we proved ourselves." The human listened quietly. He did not speak much, but the small smile on his face said enough. But in the grand house at the far end of the marketplace, a different conversation was taking place. The alien lord, draped in fine robes, leaned back in his chair as his servant reported, "My lord, the human resists. The fire failed. The widows stand with him and the people. They are beginning to talk." The lord's eyes narrowed. His voice was low and cold. "Talk is dangerous. If the poor believe widows can rise, if they believe a human can stand above us, order will break." He slammed his fist on the table. Prepare a summons. Tomorrow the human will answer to me. Back at the workshop, the widows cleaned the last of the ash, their hands raw but steady. They looked at the human with quiet devotion. The boy sat on his lap, smiling as if the nightmare of hunger and shame was slowly fading. But under the peace, they all felt it. Something heavier was coming. The fire had tested their courage, and they had earned a little respect. But the real test was yet to come. For when the powerful felt threatened, they struck harder than flames. The widows exchanged glances, silent but united. They were no longer just beggars, they were workers, survivors, fighters. And tomorrow, when the summons came, they would stand with the only man who had ever stood with them. The next morning, the marketplace was strangely quiet. A heavy air hung over the stalls. Whispers moved like wind between merchants and shoppers. "The human has been summoned," one alien muttered. "The Lord himself wants answers." Another shook his head. "No one defies the Lord and walks free." At the workshop, the human was repairing a broken tool when armored guards appeared. Their footsteps echoed like thunder. Their faces were hard and their weapons gleamed under the sun. The lead guard spoke loudly so everyone could hear. "By order of Lord Varen, you are summoned at once." The widows froze. Their hands trembled. The boy clung to his mother's dress. "Don't take him," he whispered. But the human stood calmly, wiping grease from his hands, his voice steady. "Very well, I will come." The guards sneered at the widows. "You three should crawl back to the gutter. This is beyond your place." But the human turned, his tone sharp. "They work with me, they will come." The guards laughed. "The Lord does not care for beggars." The man's eyes hardened. "Then he will learn." The path to the Lord's house was long. Crowds gathered on both sides, curious eyes watching. Some whispered prayers for the widows. Others spat. But none could deny the courage in the way the human walked. Tall, unbent, the widows following close behind. Lord Varen's hall was a place of power, tall pillars lined with gold, banners of his family crest and guards standing like statues. The Lord himself sat on a raised throne, his robes rich, his eyes cold and sharp. He looked down at the human as if he were dirt. "So," the Lord said, slowly, "you are the human who thinks he can rewrite tradition. You take in cursed widows, you mock the order of this market, and you dare profit from it." His voice dripped with contempt. "Do you think yourself above our ways?" The human met his gaze without fear. "I think your ways are broken," he replied. The crowd gasped. Guards gripped their weapons. The Lord's eyes narrowed. "Careful, stranger. You stand in my hall, not your own." One widow stepped forward, her voice trembling but strong. "My lord, we only asked for work. Not pity, not power, just the chance to survive." Her words echoed, soft but cutting. The hall stirred with whispers. Some frowned, others looked thoughtful. The Lord slammed, his hand on the throne arm. "Silence, you dare speak in my court?" His gaze turned back to the human. "You have two choices. Release the widows and keep your place in this market, or hold on to them and lose everything, your license, your shop, your freedom." The widows gasped. Their hearts sank. They turned. To the human, tears in their eyes. "Please," one whispered, "let us go. We cannot let you suffer for us." The boy cried, "We can't lose you too." For a moment, silence hung heavy. The human looked at them, then back at the Lord. His voice rang clear, steady, and unshaken. "If they go, I go. If you strip them of dignity, you strip me as well. I will not cast them aside." The hall froze. Gasps filled the air. Some merchants muttered, "He is mad." Others whispered, "He is brave." The Lord's face twisted with fury. His eyes glowed with anger. "You defy me openly?" The human did not flinch. "I do." The Lord rose from his throne, his robes sweeping the floor like storm clouds. "Then you will face judgment. If you wish to stand with widows, then you will fall with them." He raised his hand, and guards stepped forward, weapons drawn. The widows clung to each other, fear in their eyes. The boy cried louder, "Don't take him." But the human stepped in front of them, his shoulders squared. "You want me?" he said to the Lord. Then you must face me yourself, not hide behind blades. The hall erupted in chaos, merchants shouting, guards hesitating. The Lord's pride battled with his caution. No one had ever spoken to him like this. Yet in the crowd, some of the poorer workers began to murmur louder. The human is right. He protects them when no one else would. Why does the Lord fear widows so much? The Lord's eyes flicked to the whispers, anger rising, but also a flicker of unease. He saw respect blooming where he wanted fear, and that was more dangerous than any blade. He lowered his hand slowly. Very well, he said coldly. I will not cut you down in my hall, but this is not finished, human. You have declared war against tradition, against me, and soon you will learn the price. The human bowed slightly, not in submission but in quiet defiance. I am ready, he said. The widows walked out beside him, their steps shaky but firm. For the first time, they were not shadows hiding at the edge of life. They were seen, and though danger grew larger now, so did the light of their courage. The summons had ended, but the storm was only beginning. Word spread across the marketplace faster than fire. The human defied Lord Veyron, people whispered. He chose widows over power, over safety. Some called him mad, others called him brave, but none could ignore what had happened. In the workshop that night, the widows sat together, their hands shaking. You should have let us go, the youngest whispered. Now he will destroy you. But the human shook his head, his voice calm. I did not save you to throw you away. If the Lord wants war, then war he shall have. The boy looked up at him with wide eyes. Are we safe with you? The man placed a rough hand on the child's head. Safer than you were without me. The next day, the marketplace was crowded like never before. Merchants, workers, and even strangers gathered to see what would happen. The Lord had sent out his decree. Any who trade with the human will face punishment. Yet, to everyone's shock, people still came. A farmer brought a broken plow, whispering, I don't care what the Lord says, you are fair and you fix what others cannot. A cleaner followed with a cracked water pump. Please, I have no one else? The widows looked at each other, their hearts racing. This was dangerous. Helping these people meant open defiance of the Lord. But the human simply rolled up his sleeves. Bring them in, he said, his voice steady. By noon, the workshop was full. Customers lined the street. Some were afraid, hiding their faces. Others stood boldly, daring the Lord to strike them all. The widows worked harder than ever, carrying, cleaning, handing tools, their movements quick and sure. Their eyes glowed with a light they had not known in years, but not everyone was pleased. The scar-faced merchant, still nursing his broken hand, growled from the crowd. This ends badly. You think respect will save you, but fear rules here. Yet even he could not stop the flow of people. By evening, coins lay on the table, more than the human had seen. In months, the widow stared at the pile, disbelief in their eyes. We earned this, one whispered, with our own hands. The boy laughed, hugging his mother tightly. We're not beggars anymore. But as the sun set, a heavy silence fell. Drums echoed from the far end of the market. The Lord's guards marched forward, armor shining. Their leader announced, By order of Lord Veyron, this shop is closed. All inside will be punished. The crowd stirred, fear spreading. But before the guards could move, something unexpected happened. A farmer stepped forward, then a cleaner, then a group of poor workers. They stood between the guards and the workshop. If you take him, you take us too, the farmer said firmly. The guards hesitated, unused to resistance. More voices rose. The widows saved his shop from fire. The human fixed what no one else could. He gave us work when you gave us nothing. Soon dozens stood, then hundreds. The Lord himself arrived, his robes heavy with gold, his eyes burning with fury. You dare defy me? He thundered. But the human stepped out of the workshop, the widows behind him, their heads high. His voice cut through the chaos, calm but powerful. Respect cannot be ordered, it must be earned. You rule by fear, but fear breaks. Respect lasts. The crowd roared in agreement. The Lord's face turned pale with rage, but even he saw the truth. The people's hearts had shifted. If he struck now, the market itself might rise against him. For the first time in years, the widows felt the weight of eyes not filled with disgust but with honor. They were no longer cursed, no longer untouchable. They were workers, fighters, survivors, respected for their courage. The Lord spat on the ground, his voice sharp. "This is not over, human." Then he turned, his guards following. His pride cracked but not broken. His shadow lingered, but so did the light he feared. That night, the workshop glowed with lamps, not fire but warmth. The widows ate bread with steady hands, their eyes bright. The boy sat on the human's lap, laughing freely. For the first time, their laughter filled the air. Instead of silence, the youngest widow whispered, "We thought we had lost everything, but you gave us back more than food, more than work. You gave us dignity," the eldest added softly, "and a future." The human said little, but his eyes softened. He looked at them not as burdens, not as charity, but as equals. Outside, the marketplace still whispered, but the words had changed. No longer cursed widows, no longer useless mouths, but the ones who stood beside the human and fought. And though danger still lurked, though the Lord would surely plot again, the widows knew they were no longer alone. They had found a place where they belonged, a place not given by power, but built with courage, trust, and the defiance of one human who refused to turn away. It was not the end of their struggle, but it was the beginning of something greater. A new life, a new respect, a new beginning.